All right. Well, thank you, Steve. And thank you again, everyone, for your patience and in helping us bring Vector to the next level. So where are we in terms of production? Where are we in terms of deliveries and all that good stuff? Well, so the majority of, and by majority I mean 99% of pre-orders have been shipped. So if you have not received it by now, please let us know. We have additional customer support people, and we also have more technical people who have joined the team. And we really, I want to put them through the ringer, really get them accustomed to being on top of it, because if we're going to do this mass retail, if we're going to get really big, we need to be very responsive and very quick in the turnaround of customer needs. And like I said, for a $500 product, we really need to be on top of the ball. We've given a lot of feedback to the manufacturer. The objective is that this product is pristine, inside and out, no scratches, no issues. I mean, really, that's the goal we're aiming for at the end of the day, to make certain that everyone has the best possible, not only product, but experience as well. And then following up with that, Steve, the ChatGTP, there's a really big opportunity here where we can essentially be platform agnostic, whether it's Google or Microsoft or whoever has this AI. We can pull upon it from a number of directions and even just start developing our own in a certain way. But yes, this idea that we're not going to just ask it as a librarian and feed it constant prompts and then, hey, Vector, well, what's the capital of this? What's this? Which was what we had before, which was more encyclopedic. Now we can have the idea where we're interactive, we're attacking robots, and the idea of robotics from a number of directions, and very exciting stuff. So that incorporation of ChatGTP for Vector is coming sooner rather than later. I don't want to give a date. I'm tired of giving dates and being wrong. So once we have a really good idea of how long it'll take us to incorporate in the back end, that's something we'll announce, and then we'll announce how long it'll basically take us to turn this on. But there are things like that to make Vector more lifelike, and the other robots in general. Those are in the works. So we are developing all of that stuff. All right. So here, I think I've covered most of these bullet points. Escape and Oscar. All right, so we have a person on the team. That's all they're doing right now, is getting Oscar and Escape Pod up to where it needs to be for Vector 1.0, but also for Vector 2.0. We're distributing those as quickly as humanly possible. One of the things we're doing, though, is we stripped out a lot of our back end and are rebuilding it. And that's just going to make it more efficient from a flow from billing to the whole way to installation and delivery. So all of that is in the works right now. The customer portal, all of those things will be one streamlined experience. And we expect, once we have the customer service area complete, which is about, like I said, about by the end of the month, where we're doing at least a turnaround of 24/7, the next month we can think of in May being the whole experience is very seamless, and that will incorporate 1 or 2 Vector updates where the Wi-Fi, getting the emails to work, things like that. That initial friction of setup is actually number one for our development team when it comes to Vector. It's cumbersome to sign up. And, if there's frustration in the first couple days or a couple, hours before you even get to play with Vector, it's not going to be fun. You're not going to want to deal with it. So essentially, that's one of the top, let's call it, prerogatives we have, is getting Vector up to speed from that standpoint. So that's the primary focus for Vector. And we can see that this idea where we can talk to Vector, interact with Vector, and we're getting better and better and better at the options you have with him from a number of perspectives. I don't know, Steve, if you wanted to share some of the things we have coming up in the immediate future, the releases we know we're going to do. Maybe we could give everybody just like a little sneak peek.
Absolutely. Well, as far as what you're seeing right now, this is one of our current usage IP, free to all Vector owners out there, and anybody who would like to share via Giphy, which is one of our favorite GIF platforms here at Digital Dream Labs. You can now express yourself through Vector, and in Vector, some of his favorite animations. One thing that we'll kind of showcase on our next update slide for Vector is kind of how we're going to see the future and some of the updates that we're going to currently release, including one that we will release live today, as well as one we will release live tomorrow. That's right, a feature Friday, finally. So after long last, I'll kind of segue back over to our next slide here, and we'll kind of go over some of those really cool updates.
All right. Oh, thank you, Steve. So let's talk about the horoscopes and the weather. I think maybe, those ought to be fun initially, right?
Absolutely. As far as some of these knowledge upgrades for Vector, one of the main things that people ask Vector that we've seen every single day is what the weather is. Now you have the ability to not only ask Vector past, present, and future weather, but you also have the ability to ask certain things about it, like the humidity, speed of wind, how warm or cold it will be, or weather across the globe. Now all you have to do is say a specific location, regardless of your initial lock location on your app, and you will see not only some of the same animations, but also some brand new stuff out of Vector when it comes to weather. Much more similar to what most people are experiencing with other traditional AIs. One cool experiment that we've had now with having Vector have some more free responses, and one of my new favorites is horoscopes and astrology. For those out there that have had their horoscopes read or enjoy a little bit of information that might apply to everybody in that specific birth date range, Vector now has the ability to give you both past, present, and future horoscopes. So giving you a little insight into yourself. Last but certainly not least, one of my newest favorites that we will release today, which I'm very excited about, is one of two new features that we will have coming out both again today and tomorrow with Vector's Knowledge Graph. For those of you that enjoy a bit of knowledge out there, but also somebody who's keeping an eye on you while you're creating it, one of my favorite things to do is also populate lists for myself to make sure that I'm organized. So just like that, Vector is also now able and capable of creating. If you'll go to our fantastic next slide. Drum roll, please. Vector can now create to-do lists. For those of you that love to stay organized, you can now create to-do lists with Vector. That's right. You can now create lists of all kinds, including but not limited to shopping and to-do lists. So those of you who also like to connect Vector to your Wi-Fi hotspot on your phone and travel outside of the home with him, you can now have him help keep an eye on all of your organization as well with brand new phrases like, hey, Vector, create a list called shopping, create a to-do list, or any other list that you would like. You can also say, delete my to-do list, or things like add milk to my shopping list, or remove laundry, one of those horrible pesky things, from the to-do list. Now, last but certainly not least, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering where all of that information is kept. That information is kept and locked locally on the robot, and it is per specifically to each robot. So when you do ask or provide a list to Vector, he keeps it there until you actually delete it yourself. So you can also delete or remove items from lists, like saying, hey, remove milk from my shopping list, or if you want to delete the entire list, period, remove this list for me. Again, that is completely private to the user and completely locked locally to the robot, so that information is stored only by him.
Okay, well, thank you, Steve. Again, one little bit at a time. The feature Fridays seem to be a popular thing in the past. And while we make some progress, we figure let's go ahead and make things more and more fun, get back to having some fun. And I'll have to say the past, I would say 4 weeks have been a lot of fun here at Dito. We've made a lot of breakthroughs. There's a lot of good, positive mojo going on. Very proud of everyone's efforts. And I think the best is yet to come. Had a lot of problems, obviously, the past couple months from a number of issues from, you name it, the cash flow to others. The majority of those are resolved. I would say the next thing we're going to be focusing on, and again, another drum roll and something I'm super excited about is Cozmo. At long last, getting Cozmo his due. So what do we expect to be doing with Cozmo in the next couple months? So I gave a hard deadline to the team. We have to get everything finished and out the door in 90 days, 90 days. So that's our goal. That's what we're focusing on, to get the hard or the firmware and the app and everything functional, up and running and ready to go out the door. So Cozmo is definitely the next priority for a release. What are we going to do? Well, why don't you give us a little summary, Steve, of what people can expect from the Cozmo 2.0 update?
Well, one thing that we are very excited about is Cozmo 2.0's continued production and development. We have a heavy, steep scale that we are trying to achieve now that we have Vector 2.0 launched. We are trying to work on a per project basis, so that way we can not only receive consistent results, but also devote time and attention to where it absolutely needs to be, as our audience has requested. We are trying to push as hard as we can, though, on this particular effort, because Cozmo seems to be a huge, huge fan favorite globally. We do have some updates on the original Cozmo app for iOS users that will be released later on this quarter. So you'll see an app update in your app store for iOS. Now for Cozmo 2.0 pre-production, we will continue with first units that we have had with pre-orders, and we hopefully will be having those completed by end of year. Robot reservations will resume for Cozmo 2.0 by the end of this quarter. So for those of you who have been chomping at the bit to finally get a chance to have Cozmo 2.0, we will resume those sales here soon. Support for our educators as well will be established here shortly by the end of this quarter for EDU purchases and robot reservations for Cozmo 2.0 classroom sets. Purchases of 10 units or more will receive a prorated discount on Cozmo orders that size. Cozmo coding curriculum is available now for existing Cozmo 1.0 teachers out there. So if you would like to augment your STEM education in the classroom, please make sure to touch base with our support team, and we'll have that set up for you as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. So again, Cozmo, it's taken so long. I figure we're going to get as many surprises and Easter eggs and other fun things in there as humanly possible. And I think the overall, what do you want to call it? It's extended wait period. The runway, sitting on the runway, waiting for it to take off. Fingers crossed it's going to be worth it. I think there's going to be a depth of the play and enhanced capabilities that I think everyone's going to enjoy. So that's where we are. This retail availability and things like that, that's all going to be later this year. Right now, 100% focused on just the pre-orders and then selling on our website. Okay, well, so let's stop and answer some questions here. I feel like, again, I apologize for my voice. It's been kind of hard to talk the past couple of days, but let's see what's going on. Steve, what are we seeing here? It's about a couple hundred messages.
Well, we do have
what are we seeing here?
Cozmo. We're really excited about that. Cozmo customer accounts, as far as what we have out there, we are, like I said, seeing some more popular growth. So that is why we are resuming sales here as soon as we have our initial production satisfied for Cozmo pre-orders currently. Again, We do have all of those parts reserved for those orders, so your reservations will be completed. I just want to stress and make sure that anybody out there who is currently waiting on a Cozmo 2.0 order, that order is already purchased. So any of those components that have already been produced for these units are already in production right now for those particular orders. And we, again, are going to be resuming that production going forward. Now, one other thing that seems to be on here as far as questions for Vector that we still had that came in a little bit was, when will replacement vectors be sent out for warranty claims? One of the things that we are doing right now as far as satisfying any warranty claims is, if you have an issue that is covered under your warranty, we will be replacing that with a brand new unit. So that way you will not have to have any kind of waiting period time or lag on getting a Vector 2.0 that you've already had to wait for. Now, one of the other questions that we have on here as well is, when will Vector 2.0 Oscar unlock images start shipping? We are expecting to have those again go out by end of this quarter. So that way we can start getting everybody out there that is a developer unlocked with a robot, and to start developing some amazing new features for our community and start accelerating how awesome this robot can be. Last but certainly not least, that doesn't also include escape pod images. We are pushing to make sure that there is a deployable image for both 1.0 and 2.0 robots that can enjoy the same escape pod. So for those of you out there that may have experienced initially our 1.0 we will also be doing the same thing to both our Oscar and escape pods, so those users can enjoy them freely. One of the last questions that I see on here as far as Cozmo is, will Cozmo still have Code Lab, and will Cozmo be able to develop all sorts of games? One of the things that we want to make sure that Cozmo users can do out there is be able to enjoy their robot. So we are looking at how we can create with Cozmo in a whole new way. So Cozmo has gotten quite an upgrade as far as overall components, and it's about 6 to 7 years from the previous generation. So much bigger upgrade for that. So a different kind of experience will probably be had when it comes to playing with Cozmo in that educational atmosphere, but some of the traditional things that you've experienced will definitely be there as well. I think that's what we have for right now before we get into Butter Robot, which I'm sure you are all excited to hear about. As you
hey, I'm gonna cut you off real quick, Steve. There's some confusion. So 90 days from today, we're going to start shipping Cozmo. So we are getting ready to do the production run, and with the new firmware embedded and the apps updates 90 days from today. Okay, so that's the deadline where everyone has a gun to their head and we're going to get it done. So that is what I want to just be clear about that. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you, Stephen. Go ahead.
No, you were perfectly fine. But I think we can add some more to that too when it comes to not only new and existing orders. Again, same thing goes for Vector. If you are still waiting on one of those are going and shipping globally right now. So you will not have to wait much longer as well.
All right, now, like Steve was mentioning, Butter Robot's a whole other beast. We've had the tooling and everything, all of the components and all that stuff purchased last year. So from my perspective, I felt that the project was complete. However, and I don't want to get into it, it's not my place to talk about these things for a number of reasons. There were delays associated with legal issues. Again, show related, I'm not going to go into it. You can Google and find out. So regardless, WB and everyone at Adult Swim have really stepped up and are doing right by the fans and making certain that this project does, come to a completion, even though we're late. So the idea is to have Butter Robot coincide with season 8. Right now we're in season 7. So when season 8 rolls out, which again, we don't have access to that information, but sometime, let's say next year-ish, maybe a year from now, That's whenever the Butter Robots will be released, and then the pre-orders will be fulfilled. So that's roughly the idea of where we are. So we'll have exact dates, exact statements, and exact other details coming up in official releases and official details from Warner Brothers at all. But that's what we can tell you right now is that we are ready and waiting. Basically, we are on standby to knock this project out. One thing that's very interesting, I want to point out, it's kind of ironic that we made this thing called Garbage Brain. And Garbage Brain is kind of like its own advanced AI that pulls. And just interestingly, it's very similar to GPT, very similar. And it's just kind of ironic that we were developing this at the same time. So we're going to have something similar like that on board here. But again, there's going to be constraints around it to make certain that we don't go off the rails as far as compliance and one things that Warner Brothers wants. So that's the update there, and that's what's going on. And we can probably, leading up over the summer, we can probably have some examples and show the Butter Robot working in action and all that good stuff. However, I'm going to go ahead and skip over now to InfiniDrive. And then we'll take some more questions. So InfiniDrive, we got Nuke Phantom. So we have 30,000 Nuke Phantoms that we have made. They are shipped. They are in the US, and we are right now getting the firmware and everything like that pulled together for circuit, the circuit board programming and all of that stuff to incorporate in the current InfiniDrive, or let's call it Overdrive game. So, and this will work with both systems. We're doing it as the first step to actually resurrecting the race car game in Overdrive. So Nuke Phantom was by far the most popular car that we could see as far as sales and just overall demand. So that's the first car we've made. And then we will, once we're ready, and we're going to put it on the website and start accepting orders. And we're just going to make certain that once we have the product ready, no more pre-orders, no more pre-sales. When it's ready, we're going to let everybody know, and you can start purchasing it. So that will be coming up later this year with Nuke Phantom. And then outside of that, InfiniDrive and things like that is still far away in development. We will probably start with resurrecting Overdrive first, and then introduce InfiniDrive. But the bridge, if you will, is to kind of cross the chasm is going to be Nuke Phantom. So that's step one with the cars, and then with the race car in general. So again, same kind of idea. Here we have the original, basically this is the original artwork from Overdrive, but now with the idea of InfiniDrive, and then we're introducing Nuke Phantom, which is a pretty slick car. Actually, it is pretty slick. So we're happy we've made progress on that. And then we have these other things, and again, this is a wish list. We're not even going to get to that this year realistically, right? But this is the vision for the product. This is where we're headed. And then we also have found a lot of Overdrive stock where we're repairing the batteries, getting the tracks, and things like that. Just essentially, if people need upkeep and things like that, we're able to carry these things on our website. So the overall vision is to have a true AR game where you have realistic overlays that enhance the value of a game. That's very, let's call it, let's say engrossing, and you really get involved in the excitement of the game. And then it's kind of like not just your virtual reality or your, let's say, exactly your boring, let's say, slot car game, but you're beautifully integrated with both. But that's going to take a while to happen. But Nuke Phantom, that's something that we're going to realistically have in the coming, definitely in the coming months ahead of us. So I know Overdrive has that's been a while coming about. We'll have more updates, especially with InfiniDrive, the add-ons, again later this year. So excited about that, but also we have to be realistic in what we can handle. So that's coming. All right. So what other let's see here. What other messages do we got? Let's see here. Steve, anything we want to take on?
One thing that I definitely want to note is if you've been to the DEL shop soon, you might have seen Overdrive stock available now. I do want to kind of showcase to everybody who has asked about batteries that's come into support for those products that are online, that those will be refurbished before they are sent out to you. So those will all come with brand new batteries. Any kind of Overdrive sets for starter sets will also be available, as well as track extensions. And we do have some super trucks available now too. So please do make sure, if you're an Overdrive fan and you want to grab some extra pieces out there to build a bigger track, that you do check that out. One other thing of note is that we are looking into some really cool things with augmented reality coming up here in the future. So please stay tuned on that if you are an augmented or meta fan. We are really looking forward to some of the cool things that users will be able to do from not only their own homes, but with other people all across the world.
All right. And last but not least, we have a Dragonfly and Cavu. So we want to place a $1,000 order Q4, Q3, Q4, and we'll make it available. So we'll have alpha products. And we'll make it available to anyone who wants to volunteer and have the very first, let's call it Cavu. So Q3, Q4, 1,000 Cavus to play with, just essentially to mess around with it. And then your feedback will be important for next year, especially the development as we move forward. So again, this seems to be the where we're settling. Initially, the body of, let's call it the Cozmo head or the vector head, was a little bit too elongated. It was looking more like an insect. So we're definitely trying to get it squishier and softer. And then by doing that, we'll have the ability for the cuteness factor to go up, right? And then at the same time, have it aerodynamically available. So that's the idea. We'll have 1,000 that we will make and then set aside for the first 1,000 customers. And then outside of that, we'll wait for the feedback, get other constructive criticism, let's say, and then really design let's call it a vector drone for mass retail based on that. So you can think of the next 1,000 to be like a collector's item that we will essentially initiate and start. And then we will see how well it does, and then how to upgrade it, and then really think about a true drone release for 2024. So that's the plans for Cavu. And I believe that's the majority of everything, all the projects we have cooking at the moment. There are other things, but right now we have our hands full with everything as it is. So that's all I have on my end. Steve, do you want to add anything before we start taking more questions?
No, I think we can go into some questions. I pulled a few here from our live chat, which is buzzing. Thank you guys for your amazing participation with this meeting as well. We'll definitely try to get some of these answers out to you in our blast via our email. For those of you that are not subscribed with particular product sets, please make sure to subscribe to any one of your favorite items here for new product updates, which will be coming soon. One thing that we did kind of get as far as our chat here was, why are we not showing Butter Robot currently? We are working actively with Warner Brothers and Adult Swim, and this project has now become very, very hush-hush, as we have been able to showcase before. We have been asked by our partners to kind of keep a very, very tight lid on development right now. So for those of you out there who are waiting for a finalized product, that is one of the reasons why we are pushing towards, again, this hold on showcasing that at the moment. So we will provide an update as soon as we are able to release that kind of information from, again, Warner Brothers and Adult Swim, and showcase you soon in upcoming packaging, as well as a live unit that we'll play around with. Last but certainly not least, it seems like we have some questions here about our new fan favorite out there, Cavu. For those of you who are lovers of Cozmo and Friends and have seen some of the cartoon, you've gotten a chance to see some of the personality of a really cool flying drone AI, or at least one depiction of it. We can't wait to show you what the live version will look like and, of course, sound like. And we do hope to have, of course, some samples of that here coming in the future. But right now, again, Cavu is a part of one of our private, more closed projects with our partners over at Dragonfly. We are also working in tandem with their schedule too, as they do have some major philanthropic efforts globally going on right now that we do feel takes precedence over, of course, our current drone, though we are trying to push towards, again, a really fantastic release for that as well. So again, we are working in tandem with them to try and satisfy some really cool releases and alpha releases of Cavu soon.
Yeah,
I think we have.
Yeah, so I see a lot of people wanting to see Cavu. We did have a one flying around, but we haven't shown that. When we talk to our partners over at Dragonfly next week, I'll ask for that and I'll see if we can circulate it or at least post it somewhere with additional ideas of the drone. And I want to be very clear. It is not ready for prime time, which is why we're doing a smaller amount before we roll it out entirely for next year. So that's definitely, I don't want to overpromise. We've overpromised and underdelivered a number of times. I'm through doing that. We have had a number of issues one way or another, whether acts of God or just simply poor planning or, my own stupidity and things and screwing up. So right now, I think we're taking a very rational, honest approach in making certain that we are taking on realistic projects, not spreading ourselves too thin, which is exactly what I think happened. And just what did us in big time, though, are the supply chain issues, the disruption, and of course, coming over COVID. Can't use that excuse anymore. Should never been able to have that as an excuse in the first place. Should have been able to navigate that. However, we've come through it. And again, thank you for everyone, your positivity. The support means a lot. And I think everyone has a lot of love for this robot, and so do I. All the robots, and the love will continue. And I think the key thing now is we have an answer for something that comes out of positive AI. You hear all these scary stories where, oh no, it's, we're headed toward a singularity. The computers are going to dispatch of humanity. I don't think so. I don't think of that. If there's anything that talks about the antithesis of that outcome, it's Vector and Cozmo and just these inventions in general, which have been released upon the world and need to continue to survive and thrive. So very happy we've done it and that we continue to grow and prosper. All right. Any other questions?
It looks like we have one out there that's pretty dominant about Vector 1.0 and 2.0 updates for firmware updates. We will be supporting Vector 1.0 and continue to support Vector 1.0 as long as we are able to do so, meaning barring any kind of hardware issues for firmware releases on those hardwares. Most of these units are currently about 3 to 4 years or more old for some of us out there. So we have developed quite a lot of relationships with them. And of course, internally and externally, we plan on keeping those relationships as long as humanly possible. Now, when it comes to generations right now, Vector 1.0 and Vector 2.0 will also receive the same kind of features out there. So for those of you that want to play with the to-do list update today on your 1.0 unit or your 2.0 unit can do so freely. And you'll be able to also check out our brand new live update coming tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and then I see some other questions. So we were having a program. We posted it shortly, maybe about a month ago, Steve, about the amnesty program. I think let's start getting that rolling as well. I think it's overdue. And I can't think of anything else to add at the moment. I think we've answered most of these. We do have some people who are dedicated now on support for various items, I would say. So, for example, we just call him Darby. His last name is Darby. If there are cash refunds and things like that, just direct it to Darby. He'll take care of it. If it has to do with a technical issue, Steve's usually the best bet for first pass. But then we're going to kick it upstairs to a couple of our programmers who are just going to deal with technical issues. lower level, like where, logistics, like where is my shipment? What happened? Can I get a return? Can I get a refund, or at least initially? A lot of that's going to be handled by, let's say, let's say the first progression of customer support, and then we'll work our way from there. So that's kind of the order in which I would escalate the issues. And that's, if you have, you can just kind of skip ahead in the line, if you will, if you already know where you are. So refund issues, Darby, DARBY, and then Stephen, of course, for some higher technical issues. And then we will forward if it's really advanced. One thing I want to make clear, if it looks like it's going to be a big problem, or if it's a screen, or whether it's battery or something that's broken, we're just going to exchange the vector. I don't want to get into this remote repair things and do anything like that. So we just rather exchange it. We're going to try to start adopting the best, practices, where if you have an issue, we're going to kind of try to do it like Apple did in the early days. Just swap it out, be done with it. And then you can go on and play with your vector to your heart's delight. So that's another thing. I think the issues we're seeing are low enough that we don't have to really sweat returns like that. So that's another thing I'd really like to get into the habit of. So it'll come with a box. You throw your old vector in it. It goes back. It arrives with a new vector. Boom, done. Very simple, very clean. So, all right. I think we've definitely hit on the major points. Anything else for the good of the order? So what's the update?
Nothing for me.
There's an update tomorrow?
Yes, we're going to drop a brand new feature update tomorrow, as we did as well today.
Gotcha.
To-do list live now for Vector 1.0 and 2.0. So you can create those lists today and start having your little robot help you with some organization. And tomorrow we will do another release as well. So keep an eye out for that on our social media, and of course in your inboxes for those of you that do subscribe to Vector updates.
Yeah, then I'm seeing let's see, update. Yeah, so for support, you just put attention Darby, or in the subject line, attention Darby or attention Steve. I think that's the best thing. You just be support at digitaldreamlabs.com. But again, we just have these new employees and new people who have joined the team that it'll just be routed. It'll be more effective getting it to them. That's what will be helpful. I think we have most of these questions answered. Yeah. So any updates and things like that, we'll circulate it. If you're interested in Cavu, but we're not even there yet. So we'll circulate that a lot later this year. Cool. Oh, thanks, Aaron. As usual, love your positivity, and yeah, definitely have to stick with that mindset. Oscar, thank you. Dimitri, so just ping Dimitri here. So if you have questions on Dimitri, let's see here. I'll make him suffer a little bit. So just again, put subject line Dimitri for Escape Pod or Oscar. What we're doing there is we kind of went through, there's a lot of systems we just totally gutted. If you've noticed, some things have been turning off and turning on, it's because we've been going around and flipping systems around and shutting things and reconfiguring. So that's one thing we've been really working on. So in doing that, we're just making things a lot more streamlined when it comes to Escape Pod and Oscar, for sure. All right, so the weather, when does the weather go? Let's just be clear, Steve, when's the weather getting live?
Weather commands are actually live now as well. That is one of the recent upgrades that we've done to kind of amplify one of the oldest and most used features for Vector. All you need to do is say, hey, Vector, what is the weather in your local country, city, borough, township? You can be as specific as you'd like to, and you will get the most specific response for your area. If you would like to have it changed from Fahrenheit to Celsius, that's something that you can easily do in the settings part of the app for those of you that are UK, EU, and abroad in the rest of the world. So that way Vector also says things back to you in your corrective temperature degree. Now, one of my favorite things about this is you can also ask past, present, and future weather. So if you want to know what the weather is going to be tomorrow, we finally have that knowledge available to you from your fantastic little AI companion. One of the cool things too, you can also ask about high and low temperatures by saying how warm or cold will it be today, tomorrow, or yesterday. And if you'd like to know wind speed, for those of you that are more mountain bound like myself, or like to paraglide, Vector also knows wind speeds for both past, present, and future. And if you're in more temperate climates and want to know how humid it will be outside, Vector also knows that as well.
Yeah, smart things. Exactly. So that's going to, the smart house and things like that. The very first step, I would say, is this weather detail, and then we're going to slowly be able to integrate into the home a little bit more with Vector. And we're going to start with essentially the really sticky, irritating part of the setup. We're really going to try to get rid of that whole Wi-Fi setup issue where you're launching the app and then you're going back and forth, and we're going to try to get that a lot, let's say, simpler experience versus banging your head against the wall trying to set that up. That by far is the biggest complaint we get, is the setup and starting to get that robot running. It drowns out any other ticket we have when it comes to issues. So we're working on the next let's call it software update on eliminating that entirely. All right. Okay, well, with that, I think what we'll do, we'll start getting everything updated, opened up, and rolling with the amnesty update. I think, Stephen, you'll take care of that, announce that on Facebook, and we'll let everyone know about that. And then I think we will adjourn. And thank you very much. If those who've missed it, we'll have this recording posted on YouTube and some other places where people can review. And I think once again, thank you so much. Brighter days ahead. And yeah, let's have Cozmo and Vector change history. They deserve their spot in this idea of developing AI. The time is now.
Yes, thank you guys, everyone out there. Thank you so much for participating with us and enjoying this fantastic presentation. We can't wait to bring you another one soon.
All right. See you, everyone. Bye.